Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
and I am Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are back. We are here to talk about the TV show The Lowdown, which is
Yeehaw!
on FX and Hulu. They happen to drop episode 1 and episode 2 at some weird hour with commercials, but we watched them both, and so we're going to talk through them. So, if you haven't watched both episodes, beware. We have watched both, and we are talking about both. Tom, this show came on your radar first, and then you suggested we look at it because it is a bit of a whodunit, and we love a whodunit, or like more of a how was it done, I guess, and then
yeah.
who was it done by? That's a thing, right? How was
Sure.
it done and who was it done? A classic novel movie show arc. Did you enjoy this show?
I did. I thought it was great. I love Ethan Hawke. I love a lot of the other kind of actors that are kind of in stuff, but then all like a mainstream actor. But Ethan Hawke is just very different, I think, than a lot of other characters he's played recently, which is fun to watch. I think the showrunner or kind of head writer is Sterling Harjo,
Sure.
who did like Reservation Dogs, another show on FX, which I think
Yep.
I've seen a handful, and they were really funny. He's got a unique style, and I love the concept of the show. I thought it's really good, and I'm here for it. The first two episodes brought me in.
Yeah, not only did he do Reservation Dogs, but he did Django Unchained as well as
Oh, we did. Okay.
Inglorious Bastards, and he did Hateful Eight, and all of those. That's the same guy,
Wait a minute.
right?
Wait a minute. That's
Reservoir
Tarantino.
Dogs?
You're happy for a second. I'm like, no. That's Tarantino.
All right. Well, I guess I've watched all of the wrong discography then. I also enjoy Ethan Hawke. I think it's funny that he's a bit of a nepo dad. I came to know him through his daughter, Maya Hawke, who is the much more famous Hawke.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this show. I would put this show in a mix of if you took, I don't know if you ever watched Californication, but if you took like Californication, where it's like a writer who's down on his luck with a ex-wife and a kid, and then you mixed it with Justified. That's how I would. That's the blender of shows that I would put together to make this show. I have enjoyed it. I find that it's one of those shows where it's like 3 times I laugh hard, and the rest of it I'm just like, what's going on? This is a world I'm not familiar with. And I
Right.
did want to touch on, like, this is very much, it comes across as Sterling Harjo must be from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He must know like people that like live like this and this world, because it does feel very authentic, and authentic in a way that it's like he took some characters and then he just turned the knob up a couple of notches to kind of highlight the craziness. It's a little bit like a Letterkenny or a Shoresy, where it's like, hey, these people exist, but if you turn the knob up, it becomes extremely comical. That's kind of the sense I get from this show.
Yeah, I agree, because they have some, like, they seem to introduce some characters purely for comic relief, which we can kind of talk about later. But, like, some of the quick little, like, jokes and, like, mannerisms and stuff of the characters is kind of funny in and of itself. But, like, to your point, it's all just kind of dialed up to that kind of next level. A lot of stuff probably does exist with a lot of the, I wouldn't even say undertones, but just very big things of racism and white supremacy and everything that we kind of have in this. It's very interesting to kind of see it through this lens.
Sure. Yeah, you had that listed under the comedy on our outline, Tom, so we can dive into that a little bit more. I love the gentleman that wears an eye patch that matches his shirt. He always
that's so
has the
great.
pattern. That is great. The Tulsa Beat editor. That guy's wonderful. But just to summarize the premise, and then we'll jump into the episode, is it's essentially we have like a kind of failed writer, or at least that's how his daughter would describe him, Lee Raybon, Ethan Hawke, and then we have a suicide from this famous family, the Washburns, and this, or the Washbergs, or the Washburns.
I wrote it
probably-
initially as Burns, but it's Berg. Yeah,
Berg, okay.
Yeah.
I have it not to be like not part of Donnie and that fame, but the
yeah. The Wahlbergs.
sure, and his lesser known brother Mark. So that this happening after a kind of a hit piece article that Lee did on the family, and so we have the dead brother Dale, we see kind of a suicide, but we actually don't see the whole thing. And then the politician brother. And these guys are both guys that we've seen in a ton of other things, like Tim Blake Nelson, who's Dale that died. He's in a lot of like Coen Brothers stuff. And then I feel like Kyle MacLachlan, the Donnie, the politician, was in like every rom-com in the 90s. That's kind of where I sense
It's like
him from.
Twin Peaks, right? Like that's a big,
that's right.
Yeah, cult. Yeah.
Just, handsome, constantly investigating murders and all of those types of things. But I enjoyed the pace of this show, Tom. It's essentially like bad things just keep happening to this guy and his life is in shambles. He doesn't seem to recognize it. He keeps saying, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I love it, which is a little bit concerning, but I enjoy just a series of unfortunate events happening to to Lee as we go about his days. And we don't have to do a bunch of timeline jumps. This is essentially day to day. And so I like how they've kept the story a little bit small.
Yeah, completely agree. I just think about when you have your character immediately got beat up and the amount of makeup you have to put on him, and then they're applying makeup on top of his makeup in the show.
Sure.
That's a lot of work for that crew. They did a great job.
Sure. To set the tone, the opening is we see Lee showing up at a dinner club, and he clearly does not belong, but he meets with a bunch of rich people. He calls himself a true-storian, Tom. Are you familiar with this term, or is this a term you've ever used to describe yourself?
I had never heard it before until I read, I think, the tagline for the show of him calling himself that, where he's like, I read stuff, I research stuff, I find stuff, and I write about stuff, which is great.
Incredible. And he's doing it for, the Heartland Press, which is apparently a local, in this show, Tulsa newspaper. So he's not necessarily working for the AP nationally, but very fun. You can just see he does not have time for the rich and all that they've taken from people historically. So we have this funny... I love the confidence of ordering a steak and him saying, they offer him whiskey. He's like, no, I'm sober. Get me a beer. Which is just a wonderful, just the character development and all of that of how detailed he is on how he wants his steak done in this fancy place that he should not be allowed through the door. I enjoyed that very much.
Yes. Yeah, even him walking down the street, tipping his cap to a random person and then vaping. This character's great. Great introduction.
Yeah, I could do without the vaping. That's his one character flaw, is the vaping. But this conversation, which I'm assuming, it plays into the rest of the story because we're introduced to Alan from Akron, but this whole board of members that I guess this gentleman has a pamphlet that was signed by MLK, and Lee wants it returned to the people it belongs to. And this is just kind of setting the, hey, the white folk came in and took a bunch of things, and now they think they own them. And this is Lee butting up against that, and this is something that he is clearly bothered by.
Yeah, and you very clearly see the not so subtle racism and bigotry from these business guys here in this area. And I like how he kind of uses this as a front to steal this painting, and he essentially is like a magician. He's like, I'm going to wave one hand, I'm going to wave with one hand, and then get what I want with the other. Maybe he's just an illusionist. Yeah, maybe. Or a magician. I don't know, whichever term you like to use. My question is, was this whole meeting just for him to steal that painting? Or was the painting a consolation prize for him not getting the pamphlet? I would assume he was maybe wanting to meet these guys. Actually, no, I don't think he knows anything about this Akron company outside of them buying up all these black-owned businesses. I feel like his intent here was just to mess with them and take this painting. But it leads us into the greater mystery of the show. Sure.
We go to his place of work, which is the Heartland Press. I like to see print media still running strong in these towns. He is very intent upon writing a follow-up piece because this hit piece about the Washburgs is done so well. And he uses a quote here, Tom, and I'm going to have to dumb it down. I did not realize they could curse on FX, which I should
a lot
say,
of it.
I watched this first episode actually on FX with commercials. And Tom, I've got news for you. Commercials are the worst. I don't know when
so
we
many,
got rid
too.
of them. I don't know why streamers are trying to bring them back. There were so many commercials. If this episode was 50 minutes long on FX, it was an hour and 20 minutes. There were like 30 solid minutes of commercials in this. It was terrible. I did not care
Agreed.
for it.
Yeah.
But all of this leads to the greatest quote of the episode, which is Lee saying, "A faint heart never made love to a bobcat," which, I mean, just incredible. He's a writer. He's a poet, Tom.
It really is. Yeah, truer words have never been spoken. And I would say we could probably spend a podcast just dissecting that quote, but I think we're probably safer to move on.
Sure. I mean, why would you? I mean, is a bobcat considered erotic? Like, I don't know. I've got a lot of questions, but
My kid's elementary school mascot is the Bobcat, so I can't touch that.
ask him. Ask him when he gets home from school, Tom. All right. We have Lee tends to hang out at this diner, which comes into play because this is where we're introduced to, we later find his name is Marty, who's played by Keith David. I love Keith David, Tom. Keith David,
awesome.
I believe Keith David did the voice for the Navy commercials. Like every time I see Keith David, I just want to join the Navy. Join Lieutenant LT Smash.
Eva Netanyahu.
Yeah, exactly. They have this conversation where they're clearly both literate. We find out later in episode 2, because I don't think it's revealed in this one, that Marty is essentially a private investigator that is sent to follow him from the Washburgs after he wrote the piece, right?
Mm-hmm,
and we're
yes.
not necessarily sure. In this episode, he feels like a good guy. In the second episode, we're kind of on the fence with where Marty is of Keith David. Do you get the sense that he's going to be an ally or an enemy of our boy Lee?
I think so. I think he had kind of that conversation of Lee kind of saying like, "Oh, you're working for the man," all that kind of stuff, and like he obviously took that to heart, and they had a big disagreement from that, which is understandable. But I feel like he's going to have a character that's going to have like a moral compass, and maybe once he learns more about what actually happened and is happening, he might be an ally.
Yeah, I think he's going to become an ally. I like that they both have like weird writer existential brain where they're like this conversation in the diner. He's like, "Why are we here? What are you missing?" And then the camera did this weird like pan through the diner. I was like, Wait, are both these guys high? What is this supposed? But then nothing's revealed. I thought it was going to be like all these people in the diner are watching you, but that's not what happened. I wasn't real sure what that shot was supposed to be. You being a gumshoe, Tom, were we supposed to glean anything from that weird shot when he asked those questions?
Yeah, the last couple at the very end that were sitting there enjoying their meal, they murdered Dale.
Oh,
Mark it right now.
Mark
Put
it
a pin
right
in it.
now. Okay, done. Tom's call. Okay. I think it was a suicide, for the record, by the way. I think this is all going to be real straightforward. As I mentioned before, this show feeling like lived in and accurate. We then have Lee like walking down his street. He knows all of his neighbors, and he runs this little Hoot Owl bookstore, which very profitable, Tom. I hear, once again, the paper market is just on the upswing right now. Sell books, people.
Yeah, write that down on your laptop.
I do appreciate like this leading to... I don't think I realized how many estate sales like were tied to plots and things where if you're a guy that buys old books, you can just go into any house. But I do appreciate this part of the writing, like coming back to same thing with the painting. Like he needs the lawyer to hold on to the painting that he stole so that he can eventually sell it to his buddy. Who is that? An antique store that his buddy? I think his name is like Ray runs. Is it a pawn shop? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The action part of this episode, Tom. There are two thugs. One of the gentlemen's name is Blackie, which, if I'm not allowed to say that nickname, Jimmy, just bleep it out before we get canceled or before they give some sort of a rating on this podcast, because we are a podcast for children. These two guys beat up Lee, and it's because I guess he mentioned them in his article about them being racist, and even though they are racist, they're really upset about being outed as racist. Is that the crux of it, Tom?
I think so. These gentlemen don't seem like the brightest, but yeah, they ambush him here, and then we get to see his vision board, which is great, which we can talk about later. But I love that we get the classic newspaper clippings, yarn tied to the wall. It's great.
Which Marty makes fun of in episode 2, which I thought was a great bit of writing. But I don't know if this character, I'm assuming this character is going to play into it more, but we find out that Lee does have an employee. She kind of runs the counter at this bookstore, which makes no money. And in return, she makes no money because Lee is often short on paying her. And what I think is interesting is we do get this sense that...
Hold on. Is there an alert? I can hear an alert coming from your phone.
Yeah,
flooding.
There's apparently some sort of flash flood. So if
I lose you,
if the mic goes down, Tom, just assume I'm I've gone to the great beyond. I'm on the other side of the mystery, as they say.
You're a pretty good swimmer.
Yeah. Well, honestly, with the way I feel, I probably just let myself sink to the bottom. I just want to point out, while Lee is kind of off, he does not live, I would say, a traditional day-to-day, he must have enough redeeming qualities that his employee sticks around and seems to like him. Right. His neighbors talk to him, even though the lawyer secretly hates him. He still talks to him. He offered to go to lunch with him. So I think it's an interesting part where we think this guy's a mess, but he has some redeeming qualities that people around him still enjoy his company.
Yes, agreed. And I think we see it kind of sprinkled throughout the episode where he definitely is a very charismatic guy, and it's just don't get on his bad side, I think, kind of a thing. But he does seem to be using a lot of the people here, especially that lawyer, where he's like, hey, you want to go to lunch? And he just doesn't even respond. He's just using him as a safe.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. He seems to have some redeeming qualities.
And the touchstone to these people like Lee is that they have an ex-wife and they have a kid, and then they don't have enough money to pay spousal support or provide a decent place for the kid to stay. And so this seems like kind of a character trope that shows do, but we still like Lee because he's trying. He's still trying to provide. Yeah. His kid still seems to like him. The ex-wife kind of gives him an out here, and he's like, no, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stick around and be there for my daughter. I appreciate these things into the character of Lee.
Yeah, and I think as we see later, we realize he's not very great with money.
No, he's not. No. But
he gets so much money and pays $1,000 for a makeup lesson.
Now, Tom,
he needs to.
Let's be fair. The last time you found thousands of dollars in a manila envelope in a car that you stole, you immediately started buying all sorts of things. I do think that it's interesting that Lee, and we're jumping to episode 2, but when Lee gets that cash, the majority of the things he's doing is giving that money away.
Exactly.
And so
that's why people like him.
Kind of an interesting, as soon as this guy sells a stolen painting, we all get $100 bills, which is the best type of friend to have. We go to the Washburn estate sale. So this is because Dale has committed suicide. We're now just selling all of his stuff, which is that a thing? When I die, are people just going to come into my office and pull plaques off of the wall, and they're gonna go into my refrigerator full of squelches, and they're gonna buy all my squelches? What?
Well, if you look at the back side of most of the things you have in your house, it says already sold with my name on it. So I've claimed a lot of things already.
That's why all the Sharpie on masking tape is on all of this stuff.
Exactly.
Oh man, the shirt I'm wearing you already marked. That's so weird. We're not even the same size. All right, so he has this conversation where it's funny, the idea of him having written an article about this family. They are hinting that this guy killed himself because of said article, and now he has the gall to go to the gentleman's estate sale. I find that very funny. And this is what his buddy, who runs the pawn shop and is the estate sale king, is telling him. He's like, you should not be here. You should be gone. Is that, am I correct? Is that guy's name Ray? I for some reason, I had trouble catching it.
I've got no idea. It's still early enough. I don't know necessarily all the characters, but we'll say Ray. Ray works.
During this conversation, they kind of give us this hint as to, hey, the reason the family is moving so quick on things, and maybe the reason why the family is not so upset about Dale's death, is the family would always have to vote on like financial decisions and things like that. And Dale was always a no. But now with Dale out of the picture, it feels like the family can move forward with some things. And so it would be beneficial for Dale to be a suicide or murdered, which I don't know. I guess we don't get a hint at murder until he finds the book, right?
I mean, yes and no. Like, I feel like the show is clearly pointing out that this family is corrupt and they probably did murder him in some form or push him to suicide. Like, we don't know for sure. But one of the things I feel like, even as Lee kind of goes into the office and starts looking around, like, he almost like sits in the chair and does like the recreation of like him shooting himself in the head, because we see like the window behind the desk have like blood in it, and we saw somebody like actually cleaning it off at one point. But when they actually show Dale like on the desk, his gunshot wound is like to the side of his head. So unless he turned his head sideways and then shot, like that just doesn't match in a line. So I'm assuming that might be like a little showism, kind of hinting that maybe he actually was shot by somebody else, or there were different circumstances to this and not him actually taking his own life.
Sure. And that is some good sleuthing by you, Tom. I mean, just incredible detective work. We find Lee in his office, as you said, recreating this moment. Also a little bit of a detective in Lee. He finds some stuff that Dale left over in his closet, Tom. Would you like to expand on what he finds?
I don't know what to make of all this quite yet, because we know there's like obviously white supremacists here in Tulsa that are heavily involved in the plot here, but there seemed to be some Nazi gear, memorabilia, something like in the closet. So I don't know if this was Dale's or somebody else's, but there's a lot in this guy's, we'll just say in his closet.
Yeah, there's definitely some leather harnesses. I'm assuming he was a horse guy. He liked to bridle a horse. Maybe ride it around. I don't know. We're a podcast for kids, so we can't talk about it. And while Lee is snooping around the house, we have this cut of Betty Jo Washburn, who is the widow now of Dale. And she is like practicing her "he was a good man," like accepting condolences. So the hint being she did not care for Dale, which I'm assuming as we get deeper into this, we'll find out why. But I don't know that this was, I guess we can definitely say this was not a happy, matrimonious marriage, correct?
No, it didn't seem it. But she's a fan of the drink. She was having quite a bit of margarita, and I think some pretty heavy mimosas later on. So she's dealing with it.
Why'd you have to point that out, Tom? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a mimosa at a funeral and an estate sale. I mean, come on. You got to get the people. They're going to bid higher if they're a little bit liquored up, you know? Come on. At my estate sale, it's going to be nothing but booze. People are going to be drinking booze while buying my booze that I left. Like,
it's going to be an open bar. It's going to be literally your open bar.
Open bar estate sale. Oh, man. It's going to be fun in 100 years when that estate sale happens. All right. Lee essentially gets kicked out. But before he gets kicked out, he finds Dale's note in the book. And this leads to him discovering that actually all of the books in Dale's office are pretty important. And he puts this note in like a particular, it's almost like a dime store murder mystery. I don't know that I wrote down the title of it, but that's the sense I got.
I think we did in the beginning. It's like the Texas by the tail. I don't know what to make of this. Like, do you feel like he is doing this specifically for Lee? Like, does he know that he's going to come and look for books? Because it seems like an odd place to kind of put all this, because who knows can buy this in an estate sale. You figured you'd do something else to make sure it gets in the right hands. But the fact that he puts them in books almost makes it think like he maybe did write these for Dale in some form or fashion. And I also want to point out, because you said he realizes later that there's more notes in more crime books, very fortunate that he found the very first note in the very first crime book to make sense, because otherwise you'd be at note like 13.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that, Tom. Don't ruin it. Don't make me think. Oh, now the whole show's going out the window. No, yeah, it is lucky that I didn't get the sense that he was specifically trying to like warn Lee or tell Lee. I felt like this was just by chance. In fact, I think if anyone else had discovered this, Dale would be in a better predicament than our unreliable Lee, if I'm being honest. As Lee leaves, he finds the same hat that one of the skinheads was wearing, which seems to be some sort of, it's like Tulsa Boot Boy. I don't know if that's some sort of club or gang. I'm sure people from Tulsa, the two people from Tulsa that listen to us, are screaming. But we also find that Lee is pretty regularly being tailed by a maroon Kia, which...
it's the most menacing of colors and cars.
I agree. No one wants to find themselves in a dark alley staring at the headlights of a maroon Kia, even if it is driven by Marty, Keith David, which we find out in episode 2. So Dale's note inside of the book is essentially like, hey, something has happened. It's very vague. It's like, don't trust anyone. Even my wife is part of it. I'm doing this in order to make things right. Like, I don't know that it pointed to a murder.
It's cryptic for the sake of being cryptic in this show. Like, it's one thing if that was the only note that we're getting, but now that we know there's like a series of them, I think it's just the show starting out super cryptic, and we'll get force-fed some little nuggets of wisdom as we go. Which I'm for. I think it's a great showism.
Well, now that I know you've tagged everything of mine when I die, maybe I'll put some notes and some things just to confuse you. So, Tom, I'm just going to tell you the first note's going to be in the banjo, all right? And it's only going to be revealed once you can play
Town Lady?
Yeah, sure. I couldn't think of I was like, Oh, Susanna? I'm pretty sure that's a song that is played on the banjo, maybe?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
I'm not musical. I've never played the banjo in my life.
I'll ask my buddy Steve Martin.
Yes, please do. He could help you play the song that will reveal the note. Speaking of notes, we already mentioned Lee's got a cork board. Everything goes on the cork board, which is nice because it gives his daughter access to his thoughts and feelings later on. But I do appreciate a yarn cork board.
Yeah, he's a visual thinker. I love that line.
So much. Do you think his neighbor, the lawyer, is going to play a bigger part in the show? He seems to be like, hey, Lee joins him when he needs something held in a safe, which I thought was great because it's not that big of a safe. It's certainly not holding a stolen painting. But do you think the lawyer is going to, or is he just kind of, he's not like his buddy. He's just like a guy that stops in. I feel like this actor is in a bunch of other things, and I want big things for him in this show. I hope he doesn't die. That's what I hope.
I feel like that's maybe kind of what it sets him up for. He's like a kind of a friend, but he's, I don't know, like trying to be better friends with Lee and not getting that. And maybe he's going to have something in his safe that somebody else is going to really want. And maybe he will meet his demise. I hope not. I like this guy.
Sure, I did too. I like the captain of the estate sales, who we're calling Ray. That may not be his name. I love
Captain
that
Ray.
Lee sells him the stolen painting for the exact amount of money that he then has to spend on the books to get them.
That was good.
Which
Loved
he's
it.
using Ray to get the books for. I appreciate. Once again, I like all these relationships. It's a little bit like we're friendly, but also adversaries, and also no one is going to be charitable to Lee. He's got to like do something in exchange, and it typically has to deal with a wad of cash.
Yes, agreed.
All right, he visits my favorite character of the whole show, the Tulsa Beat editor, who...
I think it's Cyrus. Cyrus is his name. He's got
Okay.
the matching eye patch coordination. It's brilliant.
Oh,
No
it's
notes.
so good. It's so good because at first you see it and you're like, oh, that's funny. And then in the next episode when he's in different clothes, but he has changed his eye patch as well. I mean, conservatively, you would have to have 20 shirts and 20 eye patches in order to keep it fresh, right, Tom? Because
of course.
you're not doing 7, like, and you got to change every day. So, and you would never mismatch them. Think of the coordination. Do you have to wash an eye patch when your shirt's in the wash? Are you also throwing the eye patch in there too, Tom?
Do you have to iron the eye patch? I mean, there's a lot of questions.
I'm gonna be interested to discover whether or not he actually is missing an eye, or whether or not this is just a fashion choice.
Yeah.
I love describing his magazine as "I'm booty and bad guys." That's just great.
Yes, agreed.
He is, I guess, freelancing Lee to write a story for him, and he gives him a $200 advance. The amounts of money that are like thrown around is important. I don't want to sound like I'm rich, which. Tom, as you know, I am from this podcast. We make dollars and dollars. But I love the idea of them like fighting over the $200 advance so that he can write for the Booty and Bad Guys magazine, Tulsa Beat. Also gives him a gun without bullets, which is great.
That was incredible. And then he gets like the whole like white man that care. It's the saddest of the bunch. I love that line.
That's a
and
great
I feel
line.
like he gets that later, right? Like, doesn't Marty say the same thing? And he's like, he even clocks it. He's like, yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, it's essentially like, I think Marty uses the term cracker, but it's like a white guy that cares is the worst thing, which I just think is a very interesting, the idea of like someone white knighting something that like their ancestors probably caused, but now in order to make them feel better, it's become their cause.
Right.
I think is what they're hinting at, and it is quite funny. All right. He goes back to his bookstore where he picks up a second employee whose name is Waylon, and this is the clerk's cousin who is now going to become security. This character felt like it was just an add-on, which I'm for because it's very funny, but I guess my question is the why.
Yeah, this is my comment at the beginning. Like, he seemed to be added just for comic relief, as does like the next guy that kind of comes in. It's a weird addition. I'm sure it'll play in further, but the humor was there. It was funny. I laughed out loud.
The way he was just dancing outside of the store, I was like, oh, give him one of those pointing signs and he can be advertisement for your bookstore. I did not expect for him to be a karate master that was going to kill people and get rid of cars for Lee. But I do appreciate Lee just being like, listen, I can't pay you. I'm not your employer. But sure, whatever. Like, when I get money, I guess I'll hand you some if you keep me safe. Which he does a very poor job later.
And he still hands him money.
Yeah, exactly. They try and throw kind of an emotional beat at us. At some point, Lee, who's in this... We haven't even mentioned the white child kidnapping van that Lee is driving around, which causes Waylon, I believe, to call him a pedo. As Lee is kind of transversing the town, he sees his ex-wife and child sitting with who seems to be a responsible boyfriend who can pay for dinner. And you just see, like, this is a part of Lee that while he pretends to ignore it is definitely crushing him, that his wife has found, or ex-wife has found someone else who is definitely more reliable than old drive around in the white beat-up van with a gun without bullets Lee.
Yeah, but nowhere near as fun.
No. But they both do jujitsu, which we find out later on in episode 2. Okay, we're at a cattle auction. Tom, over under 7 cattle auctions you've been to in your life.
Oof. I mean, most of the stockyards I've been to are serving the steak. I don't actually pick it, so I haven't been to enough.
No. That's not fair. You go to the places where you are like that cow, and then they butcher it in front of you and cook it in front of you.
Yeah, they have all the cows in the aquarium, and then you pick them.
Yeah. Tom, the weirdest thing about you is that you won't eat an animal unless you watch it get slaughtered in front of you, which has always been strange, but I appreciate your, as Nate Bargatze says, farm to factory to table that you love.
Exactly.
Anyways, okay. So at this auction, to further the plot, we see Donald Washburn, who loves to give a speech. He's a politician, and his talking points are always about the importance of oil and beef, which, Tom, you've always been, as we mentioned, huge proponent. You also won't use oil unless the oil is killed in front of you. if I recall, much like the beef. So you want to see that oil derrick go up before you'll use that oil.
Agreed. Yeah.
And
Derrick to car engine.
yeah, exactly. Through your bloody hands. The widow sitting with Donald, I did not think this was like terribly suspicious. It was a long back rub, but like he's comforting a widow. Lee obviously points out how cozy they are because he's with his daughter in this moment, right? He like picked her up and took her to the cattle auction as
one does.
As one does. It's either you go to some sort of weird rundown pizza place where you give them some tokens and you drink, or you take them to the cattle auction. That's when you have your weekend with your kid.
Yep.
But this is all revealed that these two are definitely, I guess, having... Is it an affair once he's dead? Does it count as an affair?
I think the argument is they were having an affair well before this, because they seem to be a little buddy-buddy, even more so in the next episode. So, yeah, this has been going on for a while.
I get the sense that Donald Washburn also has a wife. So I guess technically it is an affair, you know. So I'm going to have to check what the good book says about after someone's dead.
Please do. Get back to us on next pod.
I will. All right. So the Tulsa Beat releases the story that Lee writes for them, and so he writes about the guys that already beat him up. Is that a little strange to double down? If they beat you up once, aren't they going to beat you up again, Tom?
It was aggressive, but he has a gun without bullets, where I guess he does get bullets from the lawyer here in a second.
Yeah, good bullets. He gets lawyer bullets, which are great. And then this all leads to him being accosted in the parking lot of his own store, not far from where Waylon is not being a security guard.
Yeah.
He gets thrown in a trunk. Tom, never get in the trunk. I don't care what you have to do. I do appreciate that Blackie says, "Wash your fingers" when he closes the trunk. I thought that was very considerate of him.
Yeah. What does Marty even tell him later in the second episode? Like, hey, like every car is going to have a handle that you can just pull to open up the trunk. I don't know. Maybe this car's old enough, or they yanked it out. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool.
Apparently, there's a latch. I'm gonna go climb into the trunk of my car and see if I can get out, Tom. So
it'll be safe from that flood.
Yeah, I mean tires float, you know. Okay, speaking of things that go over floods and allow cars to move, this all ends up on a bridge with the two gentlemen. I guess they stop by an Akron location. They talk to Alan, who we met at that rich person golf club. Alan is very intimidating. You get the sense that Alan does not want to talk to these thugs, which then leads them to the bridge where Alan shoots both off screen. A bullet goes through the trunk, conveniently allowing Lee to watch, which if a bullet went through at that angle, it's definitely going through Lee. I just want to point that out. But I appreciated what the show was doing. And then Alan throws these bodies in the river, and they definitely float.
Yeah, I mean, just some light murder. I liked this as like a end for the episode, because like it's not like necessarily slow. Like we were meeting the characters, we were setting everything up, and now this incident just kind of kicks it up quite a notch. And like the comedy too of these like kids then coming by, and he's screaming at him and trying to get me out of the trunk. He's like, "What if you're a murderer?" And then they just bike right by. Like that was really good. But yeah, this ratchets it up quite a bit.
Yeah, and I appreciated the kids not helping. Stranger danger is. I mean, we were all taught when we were kids, don't open a trunk that already has someone in it, because that's how the kidnapper gets you. Go to the van that has candy in it. That person's probably nice.
Exactly.
That's what we were all taught when we were kids in the 90s. All right. Our protagonist, Lee, does not die. He is released by Marty. And I have some questions about when Marty arrives and what Marty sees. There's definitely a lot of blood on this bridge. And Marty is supposed to be a PI, which I just have some questions in episode 2 about what happens here. And
Fair.
I have also questions. Marty and Lee have been friendly. They met in the cafe, right? Marty releases him, and then Lee like jumps in the car and drives away. And he's like, "You can't get me, I'm the gingerbread man." Almost like Marty, but Marty saved him. I didn't really understand why Lee took off here, other than I guess he'd been thrown in a trunk and thought he was going to get murdered, and he's just happy to be alive. And also he's happy that a wad of cash fell into his lap.
Yeah, I think he was just freaking out and wanted to leave the scene, and leaving the scene in this vehicle didn't seem like a great idea, or keeping this vehicle for as long as he didn't seem like a great idea. But yeah, Marty was just trying to kind of calm him down, like, hey man, listen, stop, like, let's have a conversation, but he was having none of it.
I appreciate him immediately calling his ex-wife and being like, I got the money. And she's like, all right, see you in 30. And he looks at himself. He's like completely beaten up. And he's like, make it 40. He needs 10 minutes. He needs 10 extra minutes to go to a gas station in order to fix himself up. So I enjoy these feel very like dime store novel kind of story. Like, so I do appreciate it. I would honestly, other than the setting is a little different, this does have some Bad Monkey vibe to it as well.
Yeah,
like,
I can see that.
There's a lot of like crisscrossing characters, a lot of guy down on his luck trying to figure it out. So I just it doesn't have the gloss of an Apple TV show. I'll say that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and if you haven't seen that, but yeah, Bad Monkey, Vince Vaughn joined on Apple TV Plus, another show we podcasted on. Go check that out. It's a fun show, as is this one.
What I did like about this is he leaves that scene with Marty. He's all bloody. He's going to meet. And the episode 2 just picks up, like, right from there. So I thought it was smart of them to release these two together. It gives you enough to keep you motivated to keep watching. And also there's no time lost. I really don't enjoy shows, especially since this is going to drop weekly from here on out. I don't enjoy, like, trying to figure out time-wise where we're at. This one's pretty simple. We're still in the same day. We're just 40 minutes later. And so episode 2 was called The Devil's Mama. I don't really know what that's referencing. Maybe you picked it up. But we start in my nightmare, a gas station bathroom, Tom. Nothing ever good has ever happened in a gas station bathroom.
No.
And he clearly retches, which I'm assuming after going through this, getting beaten up, and the shock of watching some, as you pointed out, light murder, he's a little bit frazzled, but he needs to get himself cleaned up so he can go get his daughter in the park. Tom, why didn't he immediately go to the police?
Because he's not lame. He's a writer. He wants the story. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but for a show, for him to just go to the cops and then we just watch these cops. I mean, I feel like they introduce cops a little bit later in this episode, and they're all like bro doggy alpha cops that are like yelling at him, and they seem to have like a backstory and rapport. Like maybe that's the reason why he doesn't feel like he can go to the authorities.
Tom, as someone who backs the blue, I thought these police were perfectly professional and wonderful, and I thought they represented the Tulsa Sheriff's Department quite well. I was on board. So just remember that, police, when you're writing me a ticket. This is what I said. Okay, because I was like, oh, maybe he thinks he's going to get wrapped up into something, so if he calls the police, he's going to get blamed. But, like, those bodies are still floating on that river. There's a bunch of blood on the bridge. Like, there's probably one responsible cop in Tulsa that he could go talk to. I mean, for story purposes, I understand, but this one, they do enough with pacing that it took me a beat to be like, wait, why aren't we just going to the cops? I guess he really doesn't want to miss this park appointment with his daughter. I don't know. Especially if you've gotten beaten up twice in 24 hours. Maybe go to the police, you know? Because Waylon's not protecting you.
But I mean, that's the difference between us and Lee. We're lame. Lee is awesome.
Lee is so awesome. You know why Lee's awesome? Because he's willing to pay for a makeup tutorial in a gas station. That's why Lee is awesome.
That big rig hat and those sunglasses. I mean, those really completed the outfit.
There wasn't a better set of sunglasses. Those were like, that was his choice. I've gone in a gas station. They have like aviators. They have like fake Oakleys. Like, he had to go with those giant white, big rimmed, I don't know.
He needed as big as he could to cover his face.
He looked like Elton John. Like, he stole Elton John's sunglasses.
I think the daughter makes that joke later, or was that the daughter or the employee of the bookstore kind of calls him an Elton John.
I don't know, Tom. I'm pretty sure I came up with that. I'm pretty sure that's an original Julian. Thank you.
Sure.
Speaking of Elton John, we meet the boyfriend, who seems just lovely, by the way. I really loved this. They're like, what happened to your face? He was like, oh, I was doing jujitsu. And the boyfriend, of course, is like, oh, where? You go to the mat. Like, he's instantly...
He knows the exact place.
Tool bags up. And then he's like, oh, I was training so-and-so. And he's like, well, that guy's 72. And he's like, no, I trained with his trainer. How old's he? And he looks him dead in the eye and goes, 84. I was dying. I thought, when you, like, double down on a lie like that, it's just so good. So good.
Agreed.
No one believes him, but he's just like 84. Like, I loved it. I loved it so much.
I loved it too, man. That was a great exchange.
With Ethan Hawke, what is your, like, I mean, obviously he's been acting for a long time. We all know the name. When you think of Ethan Hawke, I don't think of comedy when I think of Ethan Hawke. I think of him as more like, he does like indie, like romantic comedies. Like, I think there was like Before Sunrise, those types of ones. Or it's like Training Day where he's the rookie and he's got to deal with Denzel Washington. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about this earlier, but like, what is your Ethan Hawke? This is not a role I think of Ethan Hawke in, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen enough of his stuff, but I think he's doing fabulous.
No, I agree. I see him kind of more as like that kind of like B-ish movie action star, like Assault on Precinct 13, or like Black Phone, where he kind of played like the bad guy or kind of psychopath in that one. That's why I loved him in this, because he's just so different than a lot of his other characters, and he definitely is a very funny individual. So seeing him kind of be allowed to kind of cook in this character has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I'm enjoying him. I enjoy him having wads of cash and just giving it out indiscriminately. So he gives the stack to his wife. He's like, that's what I owe you plus interest. I'm like, bro, you didn't count any of that. You have no idea how much money you just handed her. Agreed. That is insane. I also love, after he gives her the money, he's like, listen, I can't take our daughter. And she's like, no, you definitely are. Like, this was arranged. And so adding the daughter to him being in peril and like having to deal with murders and crooked politicians while this is a thing that shows do, and I appreciate the added complexity that he now has to deal with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So while he's driving with his daughter, he has her call or look up Akron, or he ends up on the phone with Akron, like with a receptionist, and he's like, I need to talk to Alan Ginger. He's a redhead. I love this. This is so good.
It was a good back and forth, but we eventually we actually get his last name, so now he's got some more to go off of, and that he works independently, which I'm like, oh man, classic like hitman kind of vibes, independent contractor. He doesn't get any benefits as an independent contractor, but you know, it's still good money.
Sure, he's a W-2. I mean, he gets hosed on the taxes, but independent contracting for some people who like to make their own schedule, it's good for him, you know?
Yeah.
During this, we're in this new car. The glove box is open, and there's a copy of Mein Kampf, which this is like, it's like a dictionary size. Tom, this should speak credit to me. I have no idea how long Mein Kampf is, but I can't imagine the guy that wrote it had the wherewithal to write a book that long. Like, he didn't have that much to say. Most of it was just hateful, so I was blown away at the size of Mein Kampf. I haven't looked it up yet, but and if you know, like, oh no, that's what Mein Kampf looks like, don't email us. We don't want to hear from you. I don't. If you know that off the top of your head, please don't email us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com.
It's written by Hitler, right? Like, it's not just like
Yes.
Yeah. So.
But I think of it as like more of a pamphlet size, not a dictionary size. Once again, unless this is like Mein Kampf in all of the languages, this just felt like a really large book. And I think it's funny that he immediately identifies it as a first edition, which I don't know. It's hardcover and it's got a jacket cover. I don't think that's a first edition, but maybe we've talked too long about a book that no one should like recognize or read.
I've just Googled Mein Kampf, and on Goodreads it has a 3.2. So, which is just weird for that book to have a Goodreads rating, but yeah.
They're like, didn't really appreciate the message, but super well written. Like, grammar. This guy knows how to use commas, you know? Oh, man. The highest praise you can give an author is that they know how to use commas.
Yeah, you'll get that.
Incredible. All right. Hard cut from here to old Donnie Washburn and Betty Jo the widow wrestling, which didn't need to see, but thanks, show. There's, I guess...
and a little bit of light crying as well.
Some light crying from Donald. So, to your point, which we talked about earlier, this affair seems to have been ongoing when Dale was alive. It is now ongoing now that Dale is dead. We do find a Marianne. All the women in this show have two names, which is fun. So Marianne being upset. She seems to be dressed in like a hospital gown. She's shouting from the yard. And so I believe that is Donald's wife, who knows and has known about this affair, but she being the dutiful politician's wife is like not trying to rock the boat. And
right.
So
I think we see her in like one of those like family portraits or pictures that Lee maybe clocked when he did like the Estates Tale. So we kind of knew, and it took me a second to realize who she was as a character. But yeah, I think the wife of Donald.
Sure. Okay, so that's the dynamic that's happening there. So the show is kind of painting a picture of, you know, hey, why else would people want Dale dead? And wouldn't you know it, his wife and brother were having an affair. So you're like, all right, got it, show. We'll chalk that up. Lee yelling at his security. Lee yelling at anyone in this show, I enjoy immensely. Him just like shouting and then handing him several $100s for work. I mean, once again, this has been 12 hours of employment and he is just paying him in cash. I thought was great. Also, Lee not recognizing that these two geniuses are not who you want to get rid of a car. Even better. He's like, get rid of the car. Here's the money. Only to see the car with a for sale sign right next to his store. Just like, I loved the comedy of that. It was perfect.
It was really good. And I'm assuming at the very end where they're like seen burning this car, like, is that going to come back since they threw it on YouTube? Like, I don't know.
Yes, Tom, it is definitely coming back. It much like Blood on Dollars, it's coming back and you're going to be able to trace it. I loved this conversation. I think they used it in like the trailer or commercial for this, where the lawyer, he hands the lawyer money to put into his safe, and the lawyer's like, oh, you owe me some money, and the lawyer being like, there's blood on this money. Is this blood money? And Ethan Hawke like hemming and hawing as to what the definition of blood money is. Brilliant writing. I appreciated that so much.
It was good. Yeah, I agree. I love that exchange. Good back and forth.
And this is then where we find the boys in blue show up, and they say some terrible things to Lee about Lee. And yeah, these guys don't seem like the ones you want showing up when you're in trouble. So I'll give
These
you credit.
These are the same cops
Tom.
we see later at like the memorial service, right? Like
yes.
That,
this guy barks at him in this scene, and he barks at him at the funeral. Yes, this cop. Yes.
Got it. Noted. All
right. Our Tulsa Beat editor, who you told me his name, and I have... Cyrus. New eye patch, new shirt, both matching. We find out some people showed up and shattered the glass in front of his magazine, and this is all because of the article that Lee wrote. I found it funny that Lee tells no one else about what happened to him in terms of the kidnapping and the murder, but he immediately tells Cyrus that he witnessed a murder, like who was involved. I didn't get the sense that these guys were so close that he would share this information. I thought it was interesting because even the editor, when he gets in the car, when he's like, I'm done, he was like, hey, don't tell a bunch of people about what happened. You're in trouble. I thought who Lee was sharing information to was interesting because he doesn't tell the lawyer. He doesn't tell anyone else, right? He just shares it with Cyrus.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's probably more of a dynamic with them or history that he would feel more open to talk to him about it.
Sure, and I also think, I guess, because Cyrus writes about bad guys and booty, maybe Cyrus would be able to give him some insight, which, you know, he essentially does. I like the idea of him being like, oh, one of the skinheads was a subscriber. I've got their address because they have a subscription to Tulsa Beat, which leads to Lee wanting the mom's address. I just thought that was great.
Yeah, it's great. And then when he eventually gets to the mom's house, like him dressing the part of like the jean jacket, the ripped off sleeves, the same hat, like it was a great choice.
Yeah, undercover Lee was fun. He's like, I just got out of the clink. You knew Blackie, and she doesn't hesitate. She's like, yep, son was in prison. You definitely were friends with him. The mom keeps having a bad feeling that something has happened to her son, which while you could say this show is like over the top, I do think there are beats that Ethan Hawke, just from an acting standpoint, like plays really well. You can see that this mom, like he knows her son is dead. From like a motherly love standpoint, she is like sensing it, and you can feel there's some like anguish on his side, almost like he wants to tell her, but he can't because of his involvement and what he needs to find out. And that plays on Hawke's face, which I thought was, I don't know that anyone's winning an Emmy or an Oscar from this, or even a daytime Emmy, but I think Ethan Hawke's doing a lot of complicated stuff here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of clocked that too, and I think it was incredible acting. And like she has a line where it's like, "The devil always comes when you're doing good." Is that a true statement?
That's what Denzel Washington told Will Smith when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. That's exactly what he told him. He's like, the devil comes with you when you're at your highest. That's Denzel Washington. They're quoting the Denzel in this show. All right.
I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the mom is like, oh, you were in the clique. Let me offer you a hot meal. Do you want a hot pocket?
Hot pocket.
That was great.
And then offers iced tea and doesn't return with the hot pocket. And the reason she doesn't return with the hot pocket is we find out her lover Phil ate the last one, which is mentioned.
Yeah.
So enter Phil. Phil, I guess, is friends with Blackie and his dead friend, and also is having relations with Blackie's mom, which they are apparently keeping under wraps, which we don't have to worry about because Blackie's dead. So they have a conversation. Once again, I feel like it's interesting how open everyone is with information, but like Lee's just got to get it from someone. So he asks about Alan Murphy, who, despite Alan Murphy walking around in like a cool Columbia tech vest, is actually from the school of old racists, skinheads, and is apparently a pretty terrible person that occasionally would have Blackie do work for. And this is the second time we hear Skiatuk. I'm sure I'm saying that right. Skiatuk mentioned, which I guess Blackie messed something up over at Skiatuk, and part of the reason why Blackie took Lee to Alan is to make up for some sort of mess up at Skiatuk. And Skiatuk happens to be where? Whose house is Tom? Say it with me. Miley Cyrus. Right?
I just wanted to hear you keep saying Skiatuk. You're doing great.
Thank you. Dale's house. Dale Washburg's house is in Skiatuk. So the assumption here is that Blackie and his friend messed up the murder of Dale? Is that what you got from all of this?
I didn't get that until you just said it, but that'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, man, Tom. It is really tough carrying the intelligence on this podcast where I just immediately know all of the angles. I've got my own corkboard yarn up, and it's all pointing towards... Well, that's what the show is hinting at, but it's so early. Yeah. It's episode 2 that I'm assuming it's a red herring, right?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how many episodes there are. I don't think there's a lot. I think there's like 7, maybe 8. So I think we're going to get like into the mystery pretty quick. So
sure.
It could be.
Okay. Well, my thought was it was hinted at that these thugs did something in Skiatuk. They messed it up. Like maybe they weren't supposed to kill Dale. Maybe they were just supposed to rob him or something, and then it turned into a murder that they... But those guys don't seem smart enough to frame someone for suicide. Who knows? Anyways, we find out that Alan Murphy's a bad guy. That was the whole point of this, and that they're out of Hot Pockets. That's what this whole visit was for.
Yep.
Hard cut to Skiatuk, I believe. Tom, I got questions about living in a dead person's house. Like, do you give it some time to let the ghost leave, or are you just sleeping in that house Like, even though Dale's brain matter is kind of still on the windowsill. Your thoughts, Tom?
I think it's 7 days. I think 7 days is the official time that you need to be out of the house.
Right. Just
for
like
the ghost to pass, see the light, all that jazz. Yeah, I've seen enough Blumhouse movies to know.
Yeah, just like after you watch that videotape in The Ring, 7 days, right?
Exactly. Now you get it.
All right. So the daughter of Dale and the widow Betty Jo shows up. We find out that her name is Pearl. What she keeps reiterating that the show wants us to know is that she felt like her dad was doing fine. She apparently talked to him pretty regularly. He did not seem like someone who was ready to shoot himself. So once again, Lee and this show are all kind of telling us, hey, maybe it wasn't a suicide, which is like
Right.
cool, because if it was, this wouldn't be much of a murder mystery. This would be a suicide mystery. And by definition, Dale would be the culprit.
Yes.
Lee and his daughter, they're talking before the memorial, and we get more makeup. Tom, a lot of makeup in this show. Your thoughts?
Yeah, like I'm a fan of good makeup, and they're doing a great job here. I do like when Lee leaves to go to the memorial service, and like the daughter's looking at like the corkboard. She finds that post-it note of Alan, which is just like a crude like
Stick figure?
stick figure with like a red pen for the hair and everything. It was very funny.
Sure. I appreciate the father-daughter moments because it does give the show some emotional stakes of, like, she's worried about him. He does not seem to be worried about his safety, although he claims to be afraid in moments. He is just, like, on a mission to find out what's happening despite two people already being murdered. And
Yes.
instead of, like, trying to run, he's headed to the memorial where he undoubtedly will meet people that run in these circles. But I don't know who plays his daughter, and I'm not going to look it up, but she does a really good job, I felt.
Yeah, she's a great actress. I don't know if I've seen her from anything either, but yeah, I mean, this is what a true historian does, man. They follow the truth, no matter the cost.
Oh, man. If I have to listen to you say truth historian a bunch, I'm going to probably pull a Dale, if you know what I mean. All right. We get a quick cut of Lee calling Ray. He's trying to figure out where the books are, which made me worried for Ray's well-being. The fact that Lee seems to have called him multiple times because Ray was the one that was supposed to buy the books that are left from Dale, and he's not answering. I fear for Ray's life. So I don't want him to die. I want him to live and continue to sell stolen paintings on Lee's behalf. The memorial's fun. It's like, hey, here's a church, and there's a gym where we're going to do the reception. Marty walks over. I love Lee not moving over in the pew, and Marty being like, move over. And then I also love that I have a fear of walking down that center aisle and realize there's no place to sit, so you have to then turn around and find, just the worst. Like, I will go for the first open seat, especially if it's in the back pew. 100%. I'm a back pew guy. We find out Marty's a private investigator and that Donald Washburn is the one paying him, which Lee has issues with because he's like, you're kind of a sellout and these people are all terrible. I want to talk, Tom, about like Donald being terrible. Like, Lee is convinced of it, other than him having an affair, which as a politician is pretty, like, you kind of have to as a politician, right? Like,
Yeah.
Clinton, Hamilton, I already said Clinton, George Washington didn't, Grant didn't. They were both really good, but I would argue maybe not necessarily politicians. Thomas Jefferson, we know, certainly did. So
Keep going.
I
This
guess
spot isn't long enough.
yeah. My thought is that Donald, as a politician, kind of has to have an affair. All the popular ones did it. So, is that the only thing pointing to him being a bad person?
I mean, I think as of now, that's what the show is giving us. And then just the idea of him being a kind of sleazy politician with like him giving the speech at his brother's memorial and the cameras are snapping pictures. And like, it's a lot. Like, I think and like general sentiment for politicians nowadays is not necessarily great. So I would assume the show is not going to make him some sort of like white knight later on. Like, he's going to be a villain.
Sure. I feel like Lee is trying to pin the murder on Donald, like, because that's the obvious choice. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's maybe not a great person, but I don't know that the death of his brother is on his hands. And also, Tom, I can't help but notice that you are anti turning a funeral memorial into a political rally. That's what I'm hearing from you.
I am. Yes.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, let's not touch that. Let's just move right on.
Current events.
I love how the show does this when he's up at the pulpit talking, that it would then go to the cameras and you hear clearly the clicks of the cameras, like especially when he hugs the minister who happens to be African American. It's like click 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 click, and just how like smarmy the show is making him. I very much appreciated that.
Yeah.
When do they have the bathroom meeting?
That's coming up next. This is like the reception part. So they go to the gym, and then Lee sees Donald go to the bathroom, so he follows them, and then you have the kind of classic pissing contest between the two characters.
Sure. When he hands him his Post-it card, and Donald just drops it and starts whizzing on it, we'll say. I thought that was just a great piece of a comedic moment. Donald is like, yeah, I don't want you here at my brother's funeral because you wrote a hit piece on our family. You like pulled out all the negative stuff, but didn't write a single nice thing that we did. And like, I think that's an interesting perspective. Like, if Donald is not party to murder, like he, from his perspective, sees his family as like patrons, and like they probably write big checks to different things. But from Lee's perspective, their family has been nothing but like terrible for the community and probably the people that used to own the lands. I found that interesting, like a back and forth from a perspective. And I think they're trying to make this a little bit more complicated than like Donald is just a terrible politician. There may be more there. I don't know. That's
I think it's... No, I agree. I feel like it's one of these things. It's like a person like Donald, like a politician that is only really seeing the things that they do as good, and like have no wherewithal of the terrible things that they're doing and what their family's like legacy has been that he has kind of uncovered. Like a person like that in power is just only seeing themselves in this perfect light. And yeah, I appreciate that like back and forth and kind of quick conversation, because he immediately doesn't own up to anything the family's did. He just assumes they're great, and why don't you talk about the good stuff?
Sure. Which, you know, they did sponsor that YMCA, so that's something, you know? Mm-hmm. This leads to Lee and Donald fighting at a funeral. Once again, wonderful. I love everyone watching. I don't think Marty's doing his job very well. I don't think anyone that's supposed to be running security is doing this very well, because Lee... should not be within an arm's length of Donald based on what he's written and what Donald is trying to do. I love Lee being dragged out and shouting, "A vote for Washburn is a vote for white supremacy," and then singing John Brown's Body, which brought me back to the Civil War play in 6th grade. I loved how Ethan Hawke just went for it in this. It was very funny.
Oh, it was so great. Yeah, and like as he's like getting further down the hallway, like you can hear it like less and less because we're getting it from the other characters' perspectives. It was a very funny exit.
Yeah, I also appreciate they do a cut to the Reverend who just did the ceremony. So when Lee shouts, "A vote for Washburn is a vote for white supremacy," the Reverend is like essentially like, "Come on, man! Like, what are you doing?" So Lee feels he's in the right to shout these things, but clearly, I don't know. I just thought it was a great moment. All right, this leads to the conversation with Lee and Marty, and so we get more on Marty. And Lee brings up the murder on the bridge right before Marty released him from the trunk. And Marty claims he did not witness that he showed up late. But I don't know if this was a showism or if this was Marty lying. Did you get a sense of whether or not he witnessed those murders or if he showed up afterwards?
I figured it was more of a showism. Like they wanted to still have Marty be... like kind of questioning Lee and his motives and all that kind of stuff. But because if he actually did see all of this, that it might change his character's perspective right now. And I feel like they're probably setting it up for a turn of him later.
Sure. Okay. Okay. We're ultimately on the side of Marty being an ally to Lee eventually, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. I already talked about it, but they also talk about Skiatuk, the incident that happened there, being a murder and not a suicide. Marty also mentions, he's like, you're so deep in this, I bet you've got one of those cork boards with string, and Lee being a visual learner. Very funny. And these two have essentially a falling out because Lee calls him a sellout because he's working for the Washburns. But Marty very smartly says that he's known Donald for years, right? That they go way back, and that
Yeah, they've got a past.
Donald is like taking care of him, and so he owes Donald in some way, right?
Yes, and I mean it's a very dynamic kind of back and forth because again we don't know the extent of it, and there's more that I'm sure we're going to learn. Whereas Lee is just kind of looking at it at face value and like, why are you doing this? Because he knows, or at least suspects that Donnie's a bad person, but Marty knows him certainly much better than Lee does.
Sure. Hard cut from this very important conversation to the security guards filming a music video while the car burns in the background, and it's posted on YouTube.
It is important to note
awesome.
how great their YouTube numbers are. I think they've got 142 likes, over 400 views. That's very impressive.
Can you imagine, Tom? Can you imagine having that type of an audience? Incredible. Incredible. All right.
We need to light more cars on fire.
Maybe that's just what, Team Binge, lighting cars on fire. Speaking of cars on fire, I really loved this scene for a show that plays to the comedy side and kind of the everything's going to work out for Lee no matter how bad it gets. Having Alan show up, talk to the daughter and employee in such a menacing way, and then Lee shows up and you can see how like shook he is. I thought this was all like well done, just the tension and what it leads to, and like Lee clearly understanding what he's up against here. All of it leading to Alan handing him his card, reaching into his tech vest and handing him his card. I just thought this was done really well.
Yeah, agreed. Do you recognize Alan from anything? Because spoiler alert, he's been a decent sized character in a show we've covered on the pod.
Oh no, I know he's in things, but I did not like. Nothing comes to mind. What is he from?
He was in The Last of Us. He kind of played like that leader of like that cannibal tribe or whatever.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And he kind of plays like he has this like creepy vibe and look like when he's just kind of staring daggers at you. It was a great scene, and I love this actor. He's doing great.
Yeah, they made him the evil religious guy. Thanks, The Last of Us. Way to pull punches. Anyways, that is how we cut, which leads to, I guess, a couple of questions, Tom. In your heart of hearts, because the main mystery is Dale Washburn's death, right? So the question is, suicide or murder? Are you leaning one way or the other?
It's murder.
Okay,
No doubt.
definitely murder, because otherwise we don't have a show. Even though the show could just be that Lee is so deep into this and the conspiracy and how much he dislikes the Washburgs that maybe he's digging up something that doesn't exist. The Akron and the Allen part of it all, I'm assuming will tie back to the Washburgs and not just Tracy Letts, who is the one evil rich dude that was in that board meeting, and then we see at the memorial as well. What are your thoughts on, is that all tied to, are the Washburgs like going to be the main bad, or are we going to find the main bag as capitalism and Akron, which is this like godless corporation that's just buying things and murdering thugs?
I mean, I'd imagine there's like essentially just a connection between like the Washburgs historically and like ties to white supremacy in this in Tulsa. So whether it's like the Akron or Allen, like because was it the guy earlier said like he's like an old school not Klansman, but like he gave like a name for him that was like
an old school white supremacist.
Yeah. So I'm assuming they're just kind of like going to be intertwined in some form or fashion, but I don't know what that means yet because we saw kind of that Nazi memorabilia or whatever at Dale's house.
Tom Kennedy, he had affairs. Boom, I came up with another one. Man, I've been sitting on that for a long time. Just came to me. Anyways, I've enjoyed this show. I think, as you said, there's 7 episodes. I'm interested to see. It's got a fun vibe. It's, without commercials, it moves quickly. With commercials, you just want to dale yourself.
Oh goodness.
I'm enjoying it, Tom. I'm glad you picked this one.
Yeah, it's a fun show, and I think it's a tight show in terms of like only having 7 episodes, and it's unique. It's a fun new storyline. It's not just a sequel of something we've already seen 1,000 times over again. So, and I'm with you. It probably pulls from different kind of movies or genres, like you kind of mentioned in the beginning. So I'm here for it. Excited for the ride.
If you would like to reach us and have theories, and if you know if it's a suicide or a murder and who done it, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. If you would be so kind, after 75 straight minutes of listening to our voices, go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate and review. It's very helpful for us. Tom runs the socials because I'm not allowed to. Tom, what did I miss?
Yeah, follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all the fun ones. Let us know what you think of the show. Again, normally we don't go this crazy long, but this is a 2-episode one. There's a lot, I think, to kind of unpack. So hope you enjoyed it. If you like what we did on this show, please check out our back catalog. We've got quite a few shows under our belt at this point. We mentioned The Last of Us, Bad Monkey, Severance, Outer Range, I would almost argue. There's no necessarily sci-fi in this show, but it's kind of like Western, so I feel like I'm kind of coming back to good old Cowboy Tom roots. Go check out our back catalog, and we appreciate you checking us out.
There's definitely going to be a wall of stuffed dead owls in this show. I'm calling it right now.
I hope so.
For Team Binge, I've been Julian.
And I've been Tom. Till next week, everybody.